Hello, my name is Paul Farris, and I would like to spend a few minutes discussing distribution metrics with you. There are three basic distribution metrics that I'll describe, but before I start that description, there are a couple of concepts that are important to also master. One is the difference between brands as a collection of individual stock keeping units and the individual stock keeping units themselves. So, for example, a beverage might have a 16-ounce size in a can and a 10-ounce size in a bottle and so on. Each of those separate products would count as an individual stock keeping unit, sometimes called a SKU. The second concept is the notion of a universe of retail outlets. Most of the market research companies that generate these metrics operate within a defined universe of retailers. Some of them would include drugstores and supermarkets and not convenience stores, whereas others might encompass convenience stores as well. So, when we look at the three basic distribution networks, typically they refer to either a brand as a whole or an individual stock keeping unit that is specified. And they also refer to a universe of retail outlets. So if we say 50%, the 50% would be oriented toward that given universe. Now, the three basic measures are first, numeric distribution. This is basically a count of the individual outlet, or sometimes called doors, that stock an item and express it as a percentage of the total number of outlets. The second metric is all commodity volume. Now, instead of simply counting the number of outlets that stock a product as a percentage of the universe, it weights the stocking outlets by the total percentage of all sales that are made by the stocking outlets. And by all sales, that's where the all commodity term comes from. It doesn't refer to a specific product category. So a supermarket might have total sales that would include cake mixes and frozen turkeys, while a convenience store would rely mainly on candy and beverages and those kinds of products. The third metric is product category volume, is used as a weight. So instead of all commodity sales, it uses sales in a specific product category, such as soft drinks, for example, to define the percentage distribution. If we say a product is stocked in 60% of outlets as weighted by product category volume, it would mean that the product is stocked in outlets that collectively account for 60% of the sales of soft drinks in that particular universe of retail outlets. And the same thing would apply to all commodity volume. So if you master those three concepts, I'm going to give you three other things to keep in mind. One is out of stocks. Just because a product is supposed to be there and, quote, listed and authorized by the retailer to be on the shelf, doesn't mean that it's always there. So it's important to subtract the out of stocks from the listed number in order to get what's sometimes called a net distribution. The second sort of additional metric is total distribution. Instead of looking at a distribution of a brand, where a brand would be counted as stocked if it had at least one stock keeping unit, total distribution counts and adds up the total distribution of all stock keeping units for a given brand. That can be, and typically is, a number much higher than 100%. And for example, 500% would typically mean that most outlets would have about five different stock keeping units of that brand on the shelf. And then finally, velocity. Velocity measures the sales of a brand or stock keeping unit divided by the distribution. And it could be any of those distribution metrics. But the sales rate is a very important thing to keep in mind. If it's too low, a brand is in danger of losing distribution. And if it's high enough, there could be an opportunity to add additional distribution.